Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats, and we've been going live to share information with families that they need to know to help their kids get a great education in San Antonio. And it's summer, which means that the TEA is as busy as ever, and they're reviewing applications for new charter schools that are in the pipeline to open in San Antonio. And so last week we talked about SH James Prep, and this week we're featuring Essence Prep. And we have the school founder, Akeem Brown, here. Thank you, Akeem. And we also have the board chair, Brian Dillard. So thank you, Brian. I'm really honored. So there's a link in the description of the video to the blog post that Akeem and I collaborated on, and it sets out the vision for Essence Prep, like why the east side of San Antonio needs a school like this. But I'm really glad to have him here to explain it and share the vision and, talk about, how we can find strengths, right? And, just like make sure that students can see their potential, like talk about the east side in a different way. So so I'm really excited to dive in. I have a whole list of questions for you guys. So thanks for being here.
No, thank you, Inga. We really appreciate you having us and all the work that you and SA Charter Moms do. It's important that we get the story out there around the fact that the education ecosystem in San Antonio is growing and is stronger than ever.
Yeah. So, okay, so the first question I want to ask is to Akeem, and this is referring back to something in the blog post about when we were talking about this, you said that the idea of founding a school is not a new idea, that actually you had this idea a long time ago. Your friends just didn't know how serious you were about it. So can you talk about, your inspiration, like how long you've been working on this?
No, great question. And thank you for asking it. As I shared with you through the blog post, this is a vision that I've had since middle school. And when I say it, most people look at me and they go, "What? Are you crazy? Really? How are you in school, in middle school, thinking about starting a school?" Well, I was, because I had the opportunity really to be a part of a high quality learning environment, right? Where, the educators were committed and supportive adults. So I got to see school actually work in the benefit of children. And that excited me. So like anybody else who attends a career day or anybody else who shows up to a job that they actually fall in love with and they do it later on, it was similar, right? I fell in love with the fact that I saw a school work and it worked well, that I wanted to replicate it. I like to say I also got distracted, right? So although that was a dream in middle school, like most people, you have these dreams, right? And then when you get later down in life, you start to get distracted. And I say distracted, but I learned along the pathway. I learned that the fact that what was happening in the classroom was really being impacted by what was happening outside of the classroom, right? So I got involved in economic development. I got involved in the fact that I really wanted to support and see small businesses and nonprofits grow in communities that supported schools, right? Supported families for the betterment and the change of those trajectories. And so that vision started there, but I later learned how to cultivate that vision to what we believe could work even better for the community, right? And what I learned throughout this journey, Inga, and I shared it with you before, is that really what works for schools are collective impact, right? So a collective impact model where the school is not the only partner in education. The school is partnering with families, the school is partnering with organizations, the school is partnering with leaders and businesses to really make sure that that child is well supported.
I think that collective impact piece is really important, because I remember as we were talking about this before, right? And you've worked on the with helping constituents connect with their elected officials, and working for economic development and small businesses. That those pillars, like the political side, the business side, really need, and housing, things like that. They also, education is a really important pillar, and so if you really want a community to thrive, you need all those pieces working together. So that's how like your distractions are actually enriching the work that you're doing in education. You understand how interrelated they are. Okay, so the next question I want to send to Brian and then Akeem, and that is so Brian's role. I should have introduced him better. He's the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of San Antonio. So he's bringing a broader perspective. What a great asset to have on the board for Essence Prep. I know that both of y'all have been talking to people in the community, like that. And the east side of San Antonio is the focus for Essence Prep as you kind of look for locations. what have you heard from organizations and families on the east side of San Antonio? How are their needs not currently being served educationally?
Right. Well, I think I would reword that. So it's not that, our families on the east side aren't being served. It's just there's a lot of challenges, and it's not unique to the east side. That is, not unique to San Antonio, obviously. So I think when we talk about how families are not being served, maybe that's not the right wording. Maybe it's how can we assist? How can we supplement? Those challenges, those gaps, and where other school districts maybe aren't able to serve them as well, aren't able to get into the homes, aren't able to bring in the community into their hallways as much. So that's really where the challenge is. So when we talk to families, when we talk to community partners in these areas, it's really, the challenges that we face. So I grew up East Side. I'm third generation East Side. I went to Wheatley Middle School and SAISD. I graduated from Sam Houston High School on the East Side of San Antonio. And, the challenges just have persisted, as we moved on. As the city grows in population, those challenges with poverty kind of are residual along the way. So I think the purpose of Essence Prep is to really start to empower our communities to kind of take ownership over that. And that doesn't mean that they haven't wanted to take ownership over it. It's just we're here to help empower them, and especially at a ground level. So when we talk about students being, as Akeem talked about, students being change agents, not waiting for a student to graduate to be impactful in their community, actually having that impact while they're in the hallways, as they step out of the schoolyard, understanding how they can impact their community now. And that's something that we heard from community. They want to be embedded into the school hallways. They want to know how their students are doing, whether they have children or not. I was part of the PTA when I was mentoring at Sam Houston. I don't have any kids. It's an energy around community members that really want to be a part of that molding of students, that molding of a future community. And that's really where Essence Prep kind of steps into that fold when it comes to families, community partners, and students as a whole. So I don't want anybody to think it's like some kind of competition between us and traditional public schools. It's really how we're working together to address those challenges that have been in place for decades. That's where we're truly at.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Akeem, what do you want to add to that?
No, I think Brian, hit it best. One, you're right. This board is super rock star status, right? I'm extremely proud of my board. And I say that the board is rock star status because the board is a great representation of the east side of San Antonio. East side of San Antonio is rock star status. So, we didn't have to look far. We looked right up the street and found Brian Dillard and Dignity Hill, right? And so for us, we're proud of this vision. It's a for us, by us model. It's for the community and it's built by and with the community. And so, as Brian stated, we approach our work very asset based, right? And so we see our community as an asset. We don't see it as a deficit. And so for us, we take that into consideration with everything we do as we craft our mission, as we craft our vision, but more importantly, as we align with partners. Right, again, to support students. And so whether that's partnering with local school districts and current and existing charters, whether that's partnering with, again, social services organizations, or whether that's just partnering with HEB, whoever it is, right, we're willing to partner if it's aligned to our mission and values and it makes sense for our students. We ask the question consistently in our board meetings, in my executive sessions, right, my coaching, I ask the question, who's going to be better off as we do this work? That's important to us. And the other piece to it is, what are we doing as we examine the role that we play in changing this community for the better and supporting this community with what it needs. So Brian is 100% right. While we don't approach the work where, we don't believe that families are being served, we ask, how can we help to better serve all families and all children?
Well, that leads into my next question. So, and actually, I know we were hoping that Henrietta Muñoz, could join us as well. So, because she's at Texas A&M San Antonio, and her role is, innovation and partnerships and things like that. So my next question, I'll send it to Akeem, but of course, Brian's welcome to chime in. Can you talk about how innovation in education will help the students on the east side to see their strengths and this like asset-based way of looking at things?
Yeah, for sure. You know, the one thing I've always tried to get rid of this myth that when folks hear innovation, they instantly think technology, and they don't begin to think about what the word innovation means. And Brian knows it, right? He's the chief innovation officer. I'm sure he describes his job to folks every day, right? Innovation to us really means creativity, right? It's a synonym of creativity, and it allows us to really think about the things that haven't been done or the things that have been done and say, how do we do it better, right? Or how do we do it differently? And so for us, when we talk about innovation, simply we're looking at our SEL, which is social emotional learning. If you go into any school, any child care center right now, right, in 2021, you're going to hear about SEL. But we believe we know something that most have yet to even say out loud, right? If they know it, but they haven't said it out loud. And we believe real SEL starts with the understanding of who the child is. So that knowledge of self, we think that's innovative. We think that's innovative because we strongly believe that most schools skip the step of knowing who that child is, and they begin to build these emotions, whether it's words to use, whether it's how to really calm down, how to talk, how to, manage conflict, whatever it is, and not understanding who that child is. So we affirm the identity, and the voice of that child first, right? With that, we build confidence so that that skill that they're building academically can shine. And so, for us, we believe that's innovative because we don't see most schools really taking a deep step into understanding who that child is. And so our culturally affirming curriculum, our SEL, our project-based learning, the fact that community members will be coming on our campus consistently, working with our students, identifying problems that the community is facing currently, whether that's mitigating the effects of gentrification, how to find a sanctuary for monarch butterflies, right? What are we doing around really the water treatment and the water cycle, whether that's just weatherization. We just faced an issue around that. Our students are talking about that. It's matched with their core content. And guess what? They're voicing their opinions around what they believe solutions are. So while most schools talk about grit, we talk about agency, and we focus in on the ability to have that child, that student, speak up for themselves and speak up for their community. We believe that is a part of our innovation.
And I will chime in real quick. So from a board level, I think it's really exciting. We don't get into operations or anything, but from the whole kind of perspective of the mission and vision for Essence Prep, it's really exciting to be able to be innovative. And so, you're seeing a lot of traditional public schools bring in Montessori approaches in district charters. And the reason is they really got to get out of that bureaucracy that slows down that innovation, and they need a little more flexibility. And that's what's really exciting about Essence Prep. We really can make this for the community that we're serving and the students and families that we're serving. So that alone, truly defines that innovation for us when we're talking about educating our students.
So I want to key on two things that Akeem brought up, and one of them has to do with starting giving students that foundation of knowledge of self, right? And then that's the basis for social emotional learning. But that the curriculum needs to be culturally affirming. So I want to ask about that. The other thing I want to ask about is this sense of place, right? Because the East Side, you mentioned Dignity Hill, Government Hill. It's a rapidly changing part of town. That right there's so much history there, right? And the city of San Antonio is growing so quickly. In some ways, it felt like the East Side was not participating in the growth of the city, and then all of a sudden the city discovered the East Side. But it's like, how do we help students feel this love for the East Side, love for where they're coming from, a sense of place, understanding the forces that are at play, and caring about to invest in their community, not just get educated and then disperse, right? Sorry, okay, I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but the 2 points I wanted to dwell on more is culturally affirming curriculum, curriculum that reinforces cultural identity, and also this sense of place on the East Side, because there's change and gentrification happening. And I know that y'all are very aware of that, and you want the school to help address that.
Yeah, I definitely want Brian to help and jump in here. While I'm new, I won't say I'm new. I've been here in San Antonio for 7 years, and at least 4 of the years that I've lived in San Antonio, I've been right here on the east side of San Antonio. And this is my community. This is my home. My son, my 9-year-old, He likes to describe it as, you know, this is home. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. He loves the East Side. My 4-month is not speaking yet, but I'm sure he loves where we are. And the reason I start off by telling you that is because I am proud. I affirm the fact that I am an East Side San Antonian now, right? And that ability to own it comes from the fact that I am well aware of the history, but I also know the potential and where we're headed. And so for me, again, as a newcomer, I share to you, though, that pride comes from the ability to really have a conversation with each other and respect each other, but more importantly, understand where we're all trying to head. And that's for a better East Side, right? A more promising and vibrant East Side. And so we heard that from parents. Parents, as we identified and really were drilling down on our mission and our vision, we talked to 278 parents, about 62 students, all located on the East Side of San Antonio. And they said to us 3 things. 1, we want academic rigor. We don't want the small stuff. We want to sweat the big stuff, actually. We want to talk about things that no one has produced to us yet. So they want academic rigor. 2, we want agency. We want the ability to speak up and speak out, and we want to exercise that. The third piece is we want you, if you're going to change, if you're going to come up with a new school here on the East Side of San Antonio, we affirm and hold you accountable to helping us change the definition of what success looks like for the East Side. And so as we describe it, what we heard from parents was currently we're telling kids to flee, don't return, graduate, yes, go to college, but just don't look back. And unfortunately, that's not our community. Our community has produced college presidents, lawyers, doctors. We produced a pediatrician that almost every kid that was born in San Antonio for years, Dr. Hilliard was the OBGYN. So these pieces, right, about who the East Side is, we're prideful in that. How we do that, though, to answer your question, Inga, is that we have those conversations with our young people consistently. And so, again, when community members are coming to our school, they're learning the history of what has occurred and what will occur, right? Or more importantly, really solving problems. We believe that when you really introduce people, and people being young people specifically, to points of interest that are connected to their day-to-day lives, they find a deeper interest and value in what that is, right? And so for us, we're going to help build and rebuild a mindset around what the expectations are. We value this community. Every member of the East Side of San Antonio has a dear love for this community, and we want to pass that on to our younger generations. The way we do that is by helping them see the value in that community. And that's just my thoughts. Brian?
Yeah, no, I totally reflect that. You know, growing up on the East Side, you heard of all the legendary leadership that we had in that community, but you didn't hear about it in your classroom, you know. And so you never really had that feeling of ownership as a student or, you know, as a kid. You learned about it later on. You heard these names, you saw these people pop up, but you never really understood what was going on. And I think that's a missed opportunity to provide that kind of cultural ownership, to really understand that there's power within your own neighborhood, within your own community, and you can be the succession of that if you want to be. But if not, then there's a total void there. I think the East Side of San Antonio definitely has a lot of historic value. We know that, the city knows that, everybody knows that, but why aren't we reflecting that on our students, you know, on a more regular basis? I think that's something we really want to incorporate into the curriculum and move forward on.
Yeah, that's like yeah. I've lived in San Antonio for almost 30 years, about 30 years now, and so I'm not a native, but it's home now. And I try to learn about all different parts of San Antonio. And like the more I learn about the East Side, it takes a little digging, but but there are people on the East Side working hard to share those stories, and like walking tours, virtual tours, the river tour, and it's important to know those stories so that when you see in the news about some building about to be torn down, you don't just go, oh, whatever. It's like, no, wait, something important happened there. Like, we need to hold on to that. That's part of the story of San Antonio. And it's important for the next generation to know about those things so that they'll speak up 30, 40, 50 years from now and say, no, we got to hold on to that. Those stories are important to us, and it's part of our history, it's part of our pride, and why, and like, I don't want every part of San Antonio to be the same. I want every part of San Antonio to have its story, its cuisine, its traditions, its events, and what makes it special. Because I don't want it to all look like the suburbs.
That's right. That's right.
That's part of what I like about San Antonio. It's like, it's not Phoenix, right?
Don't get us in trouble.
Sorry. Yeah. No, it's right. I mean, I love San Antonio because it has such a long history, and it's always changing. And it's a little scary how fast it's changing now. But I think that education is that key piece to making sure that the next generation, is putting value on the right things, and and wanting to stay and reinvest in the East Side. So, okay. So I guess thank you for addressing the cultural identity and the place question. So one thing that I remember from talking to Akeem earlier was that there's like you're very conscious about the oh, my son says hi. Here, come say hi. Hey. That's my son Nicholas. Okay. So it's summer, so working mom thing.
I want to be at the pool. I'm jealous.
Oh, it's right over there by the green chair, but he's looking for his goggles so he can get in the pool. So he can say it. Oh, now he's checking out the food. Okay, sorry. Okay, so but Akeem was when we were preparing for the post and the writing process. You were talking about the language that you want to use so that students see their strengths. So instead of saying like, oh, well, those are students who speak Spanish at home, like that's different. Instead, say these are emergent bilingual students. They have the strength of being able to navigate different languages and different cultures, right? And so I was wondering if you could elaborate more on like educationally, like what are some of those ways where help students see their strengths, help them have agency, because it's in the words we choose, about how we describe situations. It's how we show leadership and ownership.
Yeah, I should have brought this T-shirt in the room so I could have shown you. I just bought a bunch of like cool T-shirts with slogans that I custom like put on there, and one of the T-shirts actually says "Who you are," and then the greater sign pointing to it. So who you are is greater than what you know. And so why is that important? Why would I want to wear that, right? Because obviously knowing information is just as important in most people's mind. But for me, I got to break that barrier first, right? I need to know who you are. And you are extremely important to me. Once I know who you are, we can have a real conversation, right? Once I continue to develop that relationship, we can continue to have a sustainable relationship. And that's what every educator should be doing with every student, right? And so for me, knowing who a student is, knowing that student speaks Spanish at home is extremely important to me, because I don't want that student to feel embarrassed or ashamed about language when he or she walks into our campus, right? They should be able to bring that same value of pride and respect to the classroom. And so most schools say ESL because what they're working on is to get students ready to speak only English, right? So we want to transition you out of the Spanish and transition you into English. At Essence Prep, no, we want you to speak both languages. Help us, teach us, cultivate those learning experiences between you and your fellow students, right? Your colleagues, your friends. Those experiences, those assets, we don't turn away from our community. That's the cultural assets that make the East Side, that make San Antonio, San Antonio. When folks quote the San Antonio is the 7th largest growing city in the nation and people are moving here, a lot of times we just talk about the fact that the cost of living is amazing. But I am someone to tell you that I came here not only because of the cost of living. I stayed in San Antonio because I admire, I adore, and I love the culture of San Antonio. That in itself has to be embraced. The way we embrace that is through our young people. And we know that it's our families. It's those small, unique pockets in our town that make us who we are. And we have to really cultivate that. So language, clothing, style of music and genre of books, all of those things will be celebrated across all interest points at Essence Prep. Those pieces for us are important because when we talk about affirming and culturally affirming or identity and voice, those things are synonymous to love, justice, and peace. Those words are synonymous, right? And so to mean that is to affirm everybody's being and who they are, and embrace that as a community. And that's what we mean when we use those words at Essence Prep.
Brian, you want to chime in?
Akeem, he addressed everything. I don't have anything else to add. Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay, good. Well, I want to echo what what I hear from families is, if there's a setting where a student feels like they can't be themselves and they have to always be filtering or kind of always be on guard or trying to fit in, then they're not able to take in knowledge. They're too busy just being uncomfortable or questioning themselves, like, do I belong here? Or setting expectations for themselves that are too low. So, right, like you want, people, children of all cultures, all races, all ethnicities to see themselves as leaders. And, learning about past leaders of color in the East Side, I think is a great way to, accentuate that and to, learn about the stories of the East Side. But like Akeem said, have, the language, books, clothing, music, include all those elements so that it has authentic San Antonio culture, so the students feel like they can belong, they can relax and feel like they fit in. They feel like they have a place there. They can be anything they want to be, whatever leader, whatever problem they want to solve, that they have access to that.
Yeah, Inga, you said something, and I just had to jump in by also agreeing with you in stating those are safe spaces. When we're talking about creating safe spaces, that's what we have in mind. Most people just think about bullying. We don't want any guns on our campus. That's not just safety. Safety is making sure that the child feels comfortable. They feel affirmed. They can talk to adults that are supportive and committed to their education and supported and committed to whatever else they're facing. Those are safe spaces when children can speak up and speak out, answer questions, and feel like they can get it wrong, and they will have the support to make sure they get it right the next time. Those are safe spaces, right? And so I always hear parents and families say, well, I want safe spaces for my children. And I as a parent know what they mean by that. They are not just talking about security in that sense. They're talking about safe spaces that protect their child's interests, their child's religion, their child's, identity. Those are safe spaces. And that's what we're aiming to create at Essence Prep. A safe, high quality learning space.
Yeah, and that's right. It's not as Brian was correcting me, like it's not that's I don't know. There's through partnerships. We can create something more, right? That it's not about competition or that there's some deficit. It's just that we can have innovation in the sense of creativity, right? Not just technology, but using new approaches and create a school that's going to support community development on the East Side, help these students to be leaders, and keep the East Side an authentically San Antonio place. So I want to before we close out, I always want to make sure that I want to just share an update about the charter application process and tell people how they can get in touch with Akeem. But before we do those nuts and bolts things, I want to give you guys each a chance to kind of offer closing thoughts. Is there anything about the Essence Prep model that we haven't covered so far?
Yeah, I think we hit a lot of the high marks. This is really a really good indicator of how we can truly build talent locally here in San Antonio. And I know I'm getting onto a bigger scale here, but that's really what this is all about. Growing up, it was a lot of folks that said, a lot of students that I went to high school with, they were like, man, I can't wait to leave San Antonio. I can't wait to leave San Antonio. A lot of them didn't come back because they didn't see opportunity here. Really, a lot of that, a big part of that was not knowing how to identify where the opportunities were in San Antonio. You weren't raised with that kind of wherewithal. You weren't educated with that kind of wherewithal. And I think that's one big thing with Essence Prep, with all the cultural identity, with the educating students on their background, their community, the challenges, the assets that come with their community. All of that is really driving home that long-term look of how do you build ownership into somebody? How do you want them to want to come back home? I want you to leave. I want you to leave and go get some new experiences, but I want you to really have that passion to come back home and address challenges that may not be the same challenges that you face. Hopefully we're growing, But start to address those challenges, build value into your community, and I think that's really something that's very important. That's going to come out of Essence Prep as we start to build forward.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Brian. This leadership team is extremely strong. And the reason that this leadership is strong, again, as I mentioned, as we opened up, is because of the foundation that has been laid by the community. The community has given us our marching orders and said, look, this is what we want if you're going to create a school in our community, right? And so these are our neighbors. And so we can't let our neighbors down. These are not people we see every so often. We literally see these people every day. And so for us, it's personal, it's important, and we're moving with a sense of urgency because kids matter. And we know that we can't wait another day to support students. While we may wait another day to fix a lot of other problems, we cannot wait another day to really work alongside parents to make sure their students have access to all the opportunities that they deserve.
Yeah, that's so well said. I remember when my kids were, well, you saw how big my son is now, but like when he was a preschooler, I remember people saying, oh, there's school, and things will change. And I'm like, well, my son just got diagnosed with autism. Like, I need help now. Like, I can't wait. And I'm sure you hear that from families. Like, and I think there's a sense of, as the pandemic is, progressing, resolving, hopefully, some of the pain from that process and recover from that, the world is reopening, new opportunities are reopening. Kids will be able to go to school in person more, and neighbors will be able to connect more. And so I feel like Essence Prep is coming in at a really a time of opportunity. So which actually leads to my next question, which is like, so where we are in the charter school timeline. That I know you got some good news earlier this month, but there's still another step to come with the TEA, right, and the SBOE.
Yeah, so one, we're excited. We're excited because we did extremely well in our application process. Again, all due to the community, not because of the board alone, not because of me alone. It was because of the community and what we produced, which allowed us to get to a capacity interview. The capacity interview itself went extremely well, again, because of the community and our vision that we were able to present and defend our capacity and ability to manage a school and, of course, support families and students of the east side of San Antonio. And so now we're headed to the State Board of Education meeting where the State Board of Education members will vote and or take action. And what that means is veto, meaning to accept and or to deny our application. We're confident, again, because we stand strong and firm on what we propose to the state, and what we propose to the state came directly from, again, our friends, our neighbors, the folks that we plan to serve and work alongside to support our students. And so June 23rd, we will be present up in Austin, both Brian and I and members of our board, to really just say, hey, this is the last hurrah to give us our final official approval. And the vote will take place on June 25th. So 2 days shortly after, we go back up just to answer any questions and support any concerns, then they will vote on the 25th. I wanted to give all of that because I think it's important because, again, that's the role we believe we will play in our community. A lot of community members did not know the process of even approving a school. I had someone say to me this morning, Akeem, I just bought a gun the other day and it only took me 30 minutes. And now you're building a whole school and it took you a year. Well, we won't talk about the difference in there, but you get what I'm saying, right? I want community members to know this is the process that it takes to open up a school, and more importantly, what role you play as community members in getting these schools approved. We vote for state board members who review these applications alongside staff and make recommendations for new schools to open across our state. And while we have a cap for charter schools at 350, we're nowhere near there yet. But I will tell you that our application is very strong. We're committed to our community, and we hope that parents, families, community members, business leaders, elected officials, anybody and everybody, we hope that you will join us and watch the meeting that will occur in Austin on June 23rd, and of course the vote on June 25th.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I've been cheering for you. I'm so proud that you're part of the the BES fellowship, while you're developing the school, and I know you've really put in the work to listen to what parents and what people in the community want. That is very dear to my heart. We are San Antonio moms and dads and and grandpas, but it's about like it's not just dreaming up something. I think this is what people need, but it's really listening and saying these are the problems that need to be solved. These are the assets that we can build on. How can we make it, like you said, by the community, in the community, build the school that it's what people are asking for. So that's why I'm confident that things will go well at the end of June, but I want the SA Turtle Moms community to be, aware of this and, tuning in and cheering and, because, it is a political process, and what the community says matters to the folks in Austin. So, so I want to give Akeem a chance to mention, so I'm going to put up the web address, and this gives people an opportunity to connect, right? So how should people keep up with what's happening with Essence Prep?
Well, there's several ways. So definitely visit our website first at essenceprepsa.org. It's right here on the screen, essenceprepsa.org. You'll find several updates around where we are in the process. We also are excited to announce our partnership with Ella Austin Community Center, where we're offering a summer camp free to any child and every child that is looking and interested. We have several course offerings and tons of field trips. We want to get kids out the house and not have them stuck at a community center either. So we'll be visiting the Museum, we'll be visiting the Whitty, we'll be visiting Child Safe San Antonio and enjoying their low ropes course. There's so many places of interest. City Hall, we're going to be a lot of places. We're going to get kids out in the community. And then the other thing is you can sign up. You can sign up to get more news and more information and stay up to date with Essence Prep by just literally tapping the sign up button on the bottom of our website. And the other thing is you can visit our page and you'll go under founder. So you can tap learn more about the founder, and you can schedule some time with me if you have questions, concerns, or even suggestions. I've told people I'm open to listening to your suggestions. There are people who said, look, I went to school so long ago, but I have some ideas because these ideas work. I'm listening. I want to hear what you have, and we want to bring you to the table to support our students. So those are the ways you can get in touch with us.
Well, I really respect how much work y'all have put in, to connect with the community and listen, and the fact that you're still making yourself available. So yeah, it's up there on the screen, essenceprepsa.org, and then there's in the blog post, there's links to also links to like on Facebook and on social media, how families can get updates that way. Because you guys are hitting the ground running, with the summer camp.
Yep, we're moving forward. We already have about 50 kids signed up, and we have more space. So let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Before we transition away, I do want to say thank you to you. I've been following you for years. I really appreciate the approach you take to SA Charter Moms. You don't come into it with an agenda. You come into it making sure that you're very inclusive and that you're truly seeking, the right schools for the right choice for the right parent. So I really appreciate all the work that you've done over the years, and much props to you.
Same here.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because I know the word charter can kind of, people are like, "Ooh, charter," and it's like, but to me, what it means is it's agency, right? It's parents and caregivers saying, I want to see what's out there. I want to choose a path for my kids of what's going to help them develop the future that has the most choices, that's the most culturally rich, what affirms their identity, so we want to present the whole range of options out there. And that's why I get so excited about new options coming to San Antonio. I feel like Essence Prep is something that we really need. It's something families need. It's something the community needs, and something that the East Side can really benefit from, to complement what's happening in economic development, and to make sure that with all the changes happening in housing and real estate, that we keep the authenticity of San Antonio in all different parts of town. So those are my thoughts. Do y'all want to offer just like a thought for folks to hold on to, or we're all?
Give us some time with Akeem, folks. Schedule some time with Akeem. That's all I got.
Yeah, schedule some time. Schedule some time. I tell folks, you are an investor in the education system. You pay taxes. So find out what your education system is doing for you, which means what are they doing for the neighbor's child, your nephew, your cousin, your sister, your brother, primo, primas, or whoever. Find out. You invest in this system. So just like any other corporation, just like any other entity, find out what your taxpayer dollars are doing for children.
That is a great message. That applies to parents. It applies to everyone in the community. That the education system is the key to the future, and it needs to be serving. It needs to be serving us. Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. It adds more to the blog post, which I'm also super proud of the blog post. I encourage everybody to click through and read that. And I'll be cheering for you guys when you're up in Austin in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much, Inga.
Thank you, Inga. Right. Thank you. Let's say Charter Moms.
All right. Take care. Thanks, y'all.